I've listened to We All Want the Same Things by Craig Finn for 7 years.
And I listened to it once yesterday.
Welcome to Spin It. Hello, everybody.
So welcome.
Huh?
I said I feel so welcome.
Oh, good. Yes, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Spin It, the record ranking podcast for people who would rather be listening to music. I'm James. With me, wanting the same things, which is for you to enjoy this episode, is Connor.
Hello.
And this week, I'm going to say it right off the top, right off the bat, starting off with the announcement and the proclamation. This is a birthday episode. We have a rocky history with birthday episodes.
Whose birthday is it?
This episode comes out rather close to my birthday, and so I figured I would take this for an especially me kind of pick. I know I pick the albums most weeks, but on the birthday weeks, I go a little bit more for things that I like personally, whether or not I think they'll have as wide of an appeal. But I definitely think if this is an album that you don't know, you should. Whose birthday did you think it was?
I can't get into that without spoiling something.
What? What's that mean? It's you and me here.
Yeah, and a third party.
You having a third party for my birthday? I really only need one.
No, what? No. Well, you've had more birthdays than me on this podcast, I've now realized.
Not in real life. It's true. You're right. Because of when we started, we split our birthdays with the first episodes.
Yeah, which really makes you always forgetting mine, but always remembering your own hurt even more, because you already have more of them.
And I never forget them. Well, for the first year, let's see. What have my birthday picks been historically? Year one, I didn't make one. So take that. We're even.
Fair enough.
But year two, I went for Dance Gavin Dance and Mothership. In year three, we went for Jukebox the Ghost and Safe Travels. This year, I was up in the air between a couple different picks, and this is where I landed. Craig Finn, an artist you have not heard of before, I presume?
Correct. Yeah, I had never heard of him.
Have you heard of The Hold Steady?
Can't say that I had.
Okay, good. Another totally new album for you. I love these. That's a blast.
Oh, man.
Boy, last week we talked about Christopher Alvin Stapleton. Love him, what a guy. This week we're talking about Craig A. Finn. I don't know his middle name, but I know his middle initial is A, and that means his middle name could also be Alvin, and wouldn't that be wild?
That would have been wild. Plus, then his initials would have been Calf.
Well, his middle initial is A, so his initials still are Calf.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
I guess not.
That's Calf, not Calf.
Alan. I just Googled it. Looks like his middle name is Alan. And that's the hard-hitting kind of investigative journalism you can expect from us here at Spin It. Anyway, Craig Finn, A. Finn, born in 1971, and he grew up in a suburb of Minneapolis, Minnesota, which you might be able to very easily guess if you are familiar with any of his music. He talks about Minnesota and the Twin Cities and the Midwest a lot in his lyrics, a very common setting. You hear it plenty on We All Want the Same Things, actually. He went to Catholic school as a child, and he earned a bachelor's degree from Boston College in 1993. Moved from the Midwest to pretty much the most east you can go in the country. For a while afterwards, he did come back to Minnesota, and he worked in finance for a couple of years. But in his spare time, he was a part of a band called Lifter Puller with his friend Tad Kubler, who would go on to be his Hold Steady bandmate in the future. They put out 3 albums and an EP over the span of a few years, Lifter Puller did, and bolstered by Craig Finn's lyrics and an 80s synth punk revival kind of style, they made quite a splash. They even got a star on the mural of the local First Avenue nightclub that they frequented in the early days. And I think the Hold Steady has a star there now too. But some of Craig Finn's personal musical influences include acts like The Boss, Bruce Springsteen. Very clear ties, I think, between Craig Finn and Springsteen with his storytelling lyrics and his characters in these songs. I think the influence is pretty clear. He's also inspired by Jester Brazil, Jawbreaker, and Rick Danko from the band, who we talked about a while ago. 30 episodes ago? It's been a bit.
It's been a bit.
Yes. So he brings all that energy and inspiration with him into Lifter Puller. But in 2001, Lifter Puller calls it a day, and Craig Finn decides to make some life changes. So he up and moves to the Big Apple, New York City. He and his wife had some friends there, including Tad Kubler, so it really helped them put down some roots and get connected and land on their feet. So one night he and Tad are watching a certain highly acclaimed concert film by Martin Scorsese. You remember The Last Waltz featuring the band, that massive concert documentary that we talked about. They were pretty much floored by the documentary, and they said, hey, how come there aren't any bands doing stuff like this anymore? We could totally do that. We could be the next The Band. So they came up with their own idea for a band that would become The Hold Steady. I have to confess, I'm not familiar with The Hold Steady. I did a little bit of listening to some of their big hit singles before this episode, but I've actually never dived into their catalog. I've only listened to Craig Finn as a solo artist, which is rare, I think, especially for me.
So you're saying I could bring The Hold Steady as my pick and it'd be new to you?
I am saying that, actually. Yeah, that's true.
Noted.
I guess that's a good sign. I don't know if you'd want to bring The Hold Steady or not. I guess it depends on how you felt about this album, which we'll find out. But I'm going to call that a good sign. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. Also, glass half full is only optimistic if you want the glass to be full. Think about that.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. Otherwise, I'd be sad that the glass was half full.
Yeah, but unless you're happy that it's now only half full and not completely full.
Okay, true. No, you're
You
right.
can still be optimistic. You're like, hey, it's only half full.
But I'd be more happy if it was half empty. I don't know. I shouldn't have tried to deconstruct that metaphor because it was fine as it was, and now it annoys me.
You're welcome.
So around that time in New York City, Finn also connects with bartender and bassist Galen Polivka and invites him to join the project along with drummer Judd Council. Their first album together, called Almost Killed Me, came out in 2004, and it polled at number 31 for the year on a list published by Paz and Jop, which is like an alt magazine, but Finn said that it was the equivalent of like being nominated for an Oscar or something. Very famous if you're in the right circle, you know? Soon after, they made the cover, and Blender named The Hold Steady 2006's Band of the Year. They would add pianist Franz Nicolay, drummer Bobby Drake, and guitarist Steve Selvage to the band in due time as well. The Hold Steady is actually still active today, in tandem with Craig Finn's solo work. As The Hold Steady, they've released 9 studio albums, 4 of which have entered the Billboard 200, including Stay Positive and Heaven is Whenever. Their 2005 concept album, Separation Sunday, has actually been compared to Billy Joel's The Stranger, which is pretty cool. Their most recent release was The Price of Progress in 2023, and they've been touring lately too. I think I've seen posts and things of them out on the road, so that's cool. But meanwhile, while he's working with The Hold Steady, Craig Finn just has too many stories to tell and too many lyrics to write and too much music to make. 5 records in, he decides to give making music solo a shot. One of his goals with The Hold Steady was to really hone his lyric writing skills and make his songs tell stories in easy to understand, relatable ways with language that sounded like just something you'd say conversationally. So that's what he tries to do in his solo stuff. My favorite review of Craig Finn, and I can't even find it again. I saw it one time in 2017 or so, and I've never forgotten it. But my favorite review of him described him as an artist who can tell a complete story in 3 minutes and still have enough time for a guitar solo in the middle. And you hear exactly that on We All Want the Same Things. Each of these little songs is like a vignette, a little story that follows a character. It's a snapshot of their situation. Some bigger, some smaller, some span more time, some happen very quickly. But we follow all these characters through, and they're not long songs. You know, I mean, the longest song on here is 5.5 minutes, but it's an anomaly. Most end up in the 4.25 minute range. And he just does such a good job at world building. But we'll get to that. His first solo album in 2012 is called Clear Heart, Full Eyes, and he strived to push his songwriting even further. He said, I wanted to do something with a little more storytelling and a lot less volume. You know, The Hold Steady, punk rock, it gets pretty loud. He also said, I think writing solo is a whole different world than The Hold Steady. The songs seem like vignettes that are a little separate from each other. I still am attracted to creating these worlds, but I don't see the characters on the solo record interacting as much. So it's kind of like it takes place in the same canonical universe, but they're separate individuals operating within it. Whereas The Hold Steady does these concept albums where everything is interwoven and tied together. Clear Heart, Full Eyes charted at number 89 in the US, and his song Rented Room was Rolling Stone's 40th best song of 2012, which is pretty cool. His second solo album, Faith in the Future, which I have also ranked and scored. Actually, I've ranked and scored all of his solo albums except Clear Heart, Full Eyes. so far. But Faith in the Future was largely his attempt to write through grief after his mother passed away. This time, he's aiming for something a little more age-appropriate for a 44-year-old man, with more of a stripped-back kind of performance, minimal production. One of the things he talked about enjoying was the freedom to, when recording solo, add instruments and leave out instruments as he pleased. You know, if you're working with a band with a bass player, it's kind of hard to tell that bass player, hey, we don't need a bass part on this song, right? That kind of sucks. But when it's just him, he starts from square one and can add what the song needs to it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like that perspective a lot. I think that's not something I think about a lot, but it makes a lot of sense. So that's the first and second solo albums. But today, we're talking about his third solo album, We All Want the Same Things. I found this one kind of on a whim. It came out in March 2017, and that was the era when, same way as kind of with Snail Mail, I was just looking through iTunes at new releases and finding cool album art and previewing songs, and then diving into everything that kind of looked and sounded interesting that caught my eye. And this one did, and it hooked me right away.
That's interesting, because the band I'm planning to bring for my first pick of the year of Discovery is also a band I discovered because I would be listening to a different album, and every time that album finished, Spotify was like, you must want this band.
Oh.
Spotify kept pushing them on me, and finally I heard them enough. I was like, you know what? Let me give it a listen.
You caved.
I did.
Was it a good recommendation? I mean, if you're planning to bring it, you must at least be intrigued by it if you don't like it.
I think it's a good fit for the year Discovery. It's an album I literally discovered this year in the year Discovery. It's got the right vibes for the podcast.
Okay. Well, you got a pick coming up pretty soon. We'll get there, but I'll be wondering about it. But yeah, 2017, We All Want the Same Things. Hits the world, I guess. I don't know what it hits. Store shelves, hits iTunes, hits everything. Regarding the title, We All Want the Same Things, which I think is really what hooked me first. Because what a title. It makes you go, oh, like, do we? What do I want? You know what I mean? But he said, it seems like a bit of dark humor in these turbulent political times in 2017, speaking in the year 2024. That's still true. He said it also rings true, regardless of political things. He said, no matter our differences, we all have some very basic wants and needs that line up with each other. And so that was his vision for We All Want the Same Things. All of the songs, I think, do a really good job aligning to this theme. This is an album where, like, it's not a concept album, but it kind of acts like one because of how well all these songs mesh and point back to that central pillar of a theme. It's just good at exploring the ways that we connect with each other as humans, regardless of our situations. I think that's cool. It received mid-positive reviews from critics. It earned a 73 on Metacritic. It got 4 stars from AllMusic, The Guardian, and The Skinny. It got a 4.5 from American Songwriter. It also earned an 8.2 out of 10 from Paste and a 7.8 from Pitchfork. So that's not too bad. We All Want the Same Things managed to peak at number 12 on the US Independent Albums chart, number 11 on the Americana and Folk Albums chart, although it didn't quite make the Billboard 200. So for me, I kind of think of it as a hidden gem. I feel like, for me, this is an album that was era-defining, right? It did a lot to change the way that I listen to music. So that's cool. But I also think a lot of people might not know it's out there. So this is a little signal boost for it 7 years later. But yeah, that's this album. Since 2017, Craig Finn has put out 2 more solo albums that I also love. And he's put out a little compilation kind of special record for Record Store Day, which features some demos and acoustic tracks from his earlier albums. And then he's done 3 more studio albums with the Hold Steady. You know, we talked about all them. So that's it. That's the overview on who Craig Finn is, what this album is, how we got here. And now it is time for the Mixtaper to come out and play some Factor Spin, where he tells me potentially true things or potentially total lies. And I have to figure out what's true.
All right, let's get him out here.
Why'd you whisper that?
Hey, it's me, the Mixtaper.
Hello, Mixtaper. Welcome back. And this is, I'm going to remind you, because we just always all forget. I'm trying to make sure.
I don't need a reminder. I know it's your birthday.
Okay. It also feels bad to remind you, because I feel like I'm saying it over and over.
A Mixtaper never forgets.
Well, we forgot Connor's birthday pretty good.
I didn't forget it.
I mean, you're the one that remembered Connor's birthday.
Mixtaper never forgets. He just chooses not to remember.
That's right.
Well.
Well.
Since it's your birthday, I'll let you decide what order to open your presents in. 1, 2, or 3.
Oh, good. Are my presents Factor Spins? Wait, 1, 2, or 3?
Yeah, there's one that has to be last, so you don't get to pick that.
Okay. Sure.
I have a grand finale planned.
Okay. Let's start with present number 2. A grand finale? What? Okay.
For the number 2, he is our competition.
Oops. Well, you're not going to like this. I meant to put this in my rundown. I assume you're talking about his podcast that he makes.
All right. Good thing I have a backup.
Well, I sneaked a peek at that present early.
Come on.
I found where you hid that one.
Why wasn't that in the rundown?
I forgot. That was one I meant to put in, and I forgot to put it in there. Oops.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, but he has a podcast where he talks to music industry up-and-comers.
You know what? It's your birthday. I'll let you have that point.
Oh, I want to know the backup fact, though.
I might not have one. I might have just said that in preparation for
that was a
coming
spin.
up with a spin.
Okay, well, hey, look, I'll take the birthday point.
That might have been my gut reaction in order to come up with a spin, but I don't want to do that. So you can just get that point.
What's the podcast called?
The podcast is called That's How I Remember It. Started it in 2022.
That's how I remember it. Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Man.
I've been following Craig Finn on my personal social media since before the podcast existed, and so I saw that launch and heard about it, and
That's unfortunate.
yep.
That scares me for my next fact as well.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy. I did not check his Instagram, but we'll see.
Finstagram. That's pretty good.
Up next, he is a Walt Whitman impersonator.
Boy, I don't know this. He's a Walt Whitman impersonator, huh? In what way? Does he try and write like Walt Whitman? Does he dress up? I mean, and do the voice, like really impersonate Walt Whitman? Like physically?
Yeah, he like dresses up as Walt Whitman and reads physically, and then reads his work.
Wow. Like Leaves of Grass?
And like knows a bunch about him, yeah.
Interesting. Why does he do this? Is it for a specific like event or something?
He's a big fan of Walt Whitman, first off.
Sure. Who isn't?
Yeah, right? Who isn't? This specific instance I'm talking about is when he impersonated Walt Whitman and recited one of his poems at a stamp dedication ceremony.
A stamp dedication ceremony. A Walt Whitman stamp?
Yeah.
Interesting.
The 30-second stamp in the Liberty Arts series, a Walt Whitman stamp.
Was he picked to do this?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the scope of the ceremony? Is this like, oh, it's in Washington, D.C., all the top post office people are going to be there? Or like, was this happening in Minnesota and he's our most famous local celebrity?
Let's see here. Participants gather near the stamp artwork following its unveiling.
Oh, if it's an unveiling, that's probably an official thing.
Yeah. It's the official thing. It features a portrait of Whitman based on an 1869 photograph. And he was the 32nd of 32 writers they have honored via stamp, including John Steinbeck, F. Scott Fitzgerald.
You don't need to list all 32, but that's cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It just seemed like the kind of thing you could keep going on for a bit.
Yeah.
Where's Walt Whitman from? I feel like I should know this. I keep thinking New England, but that's Robert Frost.
On Long Island in New York, which makes sense why this was taking place in New York.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So, does Craig Finn particularly look like Walt Whitman, or...
In this photo he does. He's got the beard, the longer hair, the like mustache and everything. He's gone all out with the look. I assume fake beard, because the other photos I've seen of him does not have a beard.
Yeah, it's probably a fake.
But yeah.
What poem did he read?
Oh, the event was held in Huntington Station, New York, where Whitman was born. Yeah, the year marks the bicentennial of his birth. This was in 2019, by the way.
Okay.
It doesn't say which one he read, surprisingly.
Wow.
They just list off his most popular ones. I assume it was one of these.
Yeah, probably. I don't know about this. It feels a little campy.
Campy?
Not to recite his poetry at his stamp unveiling. That feels appropriate. But to have someone dress up and do it, I don't know. That feels like a little bit much for the post office to do. I don't know.
Yeah, apparently you just don't know.
I'm not feeling it. Like, is he a good Walt Whitman impersonator? I can't. If he's just reciting the poem.
Here's the stamp.
Well, that sure is a stamp. It actually does look like he might have a very good head shape to be Walt Whitman.
So in the background of the stamp behind him is a hermit thrush sitting on a branch of a lilac bush, which is in reference to when lilacs last in the dooryard bloomed, which was his elegy for President Lincoln.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all I've got information-wise, so if you're not feeling it, go ahead and lock in spin.
I'm not feeling it. I think I'm going to have to lock in spin. I mean, we're debating the whole thing about the stamp unveiling, right? Not whether or not he is a Walt Whitman impersonator.
What do you mean?
Well, because, like, your initial statement was just, he's a Walt Whitman impersonator. But then we got into the stamp unveiling, and
Right.
he went and did it for that specific thing.
Yeah, so I can tell you this absolutely happened. You're just trying to decide if it was him or not.
Right. Yes. I don't think it was Craig Finn. I think it was someone else, maybe.
Lock in spin for me?
But I don't know how you got here. I'm going to lock in spin.
Locking in spin. Here is a picture of the ceremony with the Walt Whitman impersonator.
Yeah.
Who is indeed not Craig Finn.
Yeah.
This is a spin.
So they really did have someone dress up like Walt Whitman. I really did think that'd kind of be a little...
Yeah, Walt Whitman impersonator David Reynolds, an English professor with the Graduate Center of the City University of New York.
Yeah, but see, that feels legit. That's someone who's, like, studied Whitman and knows and could, like, properly impersonate him.
I really expected you to ask a couple more questions about, like, why he was involved, like, interested in Whitman, and, like, I was going to tell you all about how he, like, studied him and, like, knew all about him and put him in, like, references to him in a lot of his songs.
Yeah, that would have been a tough sell.
It's true, though. You asked how I got there. It's because I found information about how he impersonated Walt Whitman's voice at the very end of their song, A Pot in Which to Piss.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. I do remember hearing about that.
Yeah, he's doing the voice of Walt Whitman at the end of that song. And so I was like, oh, he's a Walt Whitman impersonator. And so then I just Googled if a Walt Whitman impersonator was a real thing and found that article and went, well, I'll just say this was him.
So he is a Walt Whitman impersonator.
Yeah.
Just not to this degree.
Just not the way I told it.
That's good. Wow. I can't believe... I mean, just hundreds of facts in, you still find something that I never see coming, even a little bit. That felt like a totally unique fact.
Really?
Yeah, we haven't had many other impersonators.
I'm glad I haven't lost it.
No, you haven't lost your touch. Which one was that? That was number 1?
I forget already, but yes.
Okay, give me the only other one I'm allowed to pick. It doesn't really matter at this point anyway.
Oh, okay. He has an interesting collection.
Ooh, we haven't had a collection fact in a minute. What does he collect?
I will answer that question
Please do.
with a song.
What?
I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout. When you tip me over, hear me shout. Hey, it's me, the Mixtaper.
I feel like you messed that up in the middle there, and
I probably did.
you don't tip it over until it shouts. That's the tipping it over is the last part, and then
I don't know how that song goes.
because it gets all steamed up and you hear it shout. Right. Anyway,
Tip me over and pour me out to the end. You're right. Yeah, I don't know.
does he collect teapots?
Yeah, he collects teapots. That's where I was going with this. That's all that really matters.
Okay. What kind of teapots does he collect?
The kind that make tea.
Sure. About how many does he have?
Oh, well, for that, we're going to have to play everybody's newest favorite game show. Guess that teapot amount.
Okay. Is this a normal number of teapots?
Yeah, I would say this is going to be more where you would traditionally start a guess than an absurd number you're never going to guess.
Great. I mean, if I have like 2 or 3 teapots, I'm not calling it a collection yet. But, I mean, if I have 400 teapots, that's not a number that's like reasonable to have. So I think I'm going to say... I was going 20 to 30, so I'm going to split the difference and say 25.
Yeah, close enough.
Oh.
You're in the right range with 25 to 30. He has 27 teapots as of the time of this.
I almost said exactly 27. You got to be kidding me. Darn it.
Wow, you should have said it. You would have been right for once.
That would have been. You wouldn't have believed that I didn't know it if I said 27 right off the bat. So are they from like different places, or are they made of different things, decorated a different way?
Yes. I don't think he has 27 of the same teapot.
I collect this specific make and model of teapot. Just, when one goes bad, I got the other one lined up and ready to go. But, like, is there anything...
No, but he does collect a specific type, yes.
Okay. Well, what kind and type? What's the qualifier?
Irregular spouts.
Okay. So not just a normal, boring teapot spout. It's got to be funky.
Correct.
Does he use them all or most of them? Or are they display pieces?
I would have guessed display, but I really don't know. I don't know if you're collecting them. Like, I collect coffee mugs, and the ones that are, like, part of my, like, collection don't get used. I have other coffee mugs that I use. The other ones are for display.
This is my display mug. How'd this start?
Great question.
Thank you. I try to ask good questions.
Wish I had an answer for you.
Oh, great lack of an answer.
if you'd like to ask a question I can't answer, you should ask me what his favorite teapot is.
I sure would love to know what his favorite teapot is.
Boy, do I have an answer for you.
Well, too bad I didn't ask.
Oh.
What's his favorite teapot?
It's the Hessian Jade Sheephead Melon Ridged Teapot.
I hate it when you do this because that's such a specific thing. Maybe he just found out about the Hessian Jade Sheep Ridge teapot. And
Boy, do I have a picture for you.
okay.
This is it. Look at that irregular spout.
But is the spout at the top of it or in the front of it?
You will see that it is a sheephead spout.
Oh, so it's shaped like a sheep with a handle on its back, and it vomits your tea.
Yeah.
That's a new one for me. Yeah. Ooh, is there anything else I need to know about this?
Nothing else I want to tell you about it. Need to know? That's up to you.
Okay. How much does this teapot cost? This jade sheephead? I mean, you have a picture of it.
No idea.
You don't have an idea of the cost. Okay.
No.
How much does he spend on a teapot? What's the price if you're a casual teapot collector?
I really know very little other than that he has teapots and this is his favorite one. This is all he posted about.
Okay. I'm going to say this one's also a spin.
Also a spin?
Yeah, I think for whatever reason, I just think you like this sheephead teapot. And then you just worked it in. I'm on the verge of believing it, but I just don't.
Okay, fair enough. Lock in spin for me.
I will maintain that I'm locking in spin.
Now that you've locked in spin. Remember when I said I was worried about you following him on Instagram?
Yeah, and then you did just say the thing about him posting the one. So I did think about that when you said it.
That was the slip. I was specifically trying not to give away that I found this on Instagram.
Well,
I did slip that up.
You might have, but I also don't know that it's totally true yet. Maybe he just saw this teapot somewhere, and you decided maybe he collects them.
Yeah, well, he posted about his collection, about how this was his favorite one. Also, do you see the little fish on the handles? Aren't those cute?
They are cute. Well, it sounds like you're saying this is a fact, but you haven't.
This is indeed a spin!
Okay. Really trying to take me for a ride there.
Yeah, this is a spin.
Very convincing, though.
I only had one true fact this week, and it was one you apparently already knew.
Wait a minute. Well, but we've got a grand finale.
We do have a grand finale, and it's time to play a new Spin It game show.
What?
It's time to play Birthday or Forgotten Birthday.
Wait a minute. What's this? I feel like this is revenge from you for all the times I maybe have forgotten Connor's birthday.
I am going to be naming a musical artist, a musician, if you will.
Uh-huh. Yes.
You must tell me if they share a birthday with the only birthday we remember on this podcast, or if they share a birthday with the birthday we always forget on this podcast.
Oh, you went and found people with Connor's birthday and my birthday, and I have to put them in groups of who's who?
You sure do.
Oh.
Do I expect you to have any shot at this? No.
I don't know, though. I mean, in theory, I have more than once looked up lists of famous people born on my birthday.
Yeah?
So by process of elimination, I mean, if those lists are thorough and I can remember them well enough, maybe. The one I will say, I'll let you do it.
No, go ahead. Please say.
Well, Geddy Lee from Rush is born on my birthday. We share a birthday. Cheers.
Yeah.
So go ahead and put him in my column.
Think. All right. Here we go. So, kind of another version of Fast Fire Fact or Perry versus Perry. It's another one of those.
Sure.
So this is my grand finale. You ready to begin?
I like this. Kind of. Yeah, I guess I'm ready to begin. Is there a threshold I have to cross over to get the last point? Because I am on the verge of a perfect week.
We'll just keep track.
Right, we'll just keep track, but what counts as a win for me?
50%.
50%?
Yeah, 51%.
Even 50? So if we tie...
Majority. A tie goes to the runner.
Tie goes to the dastard.
Yeah, to the dastard.
Unfortunate.
Up first, John Sykes. You get one Mixtaper buck if you can also name who they are. If they're a member of a band, like what band they're a part of.
Oof. Yeah, I was about to ask. It's going to really be telling of my knowledge.
But feel free to ask if you don't know.
What band is he a part of?
John Sykes, Whitesnake.
Oh, okay. I'm going to say he's from Whitesnake, and I'd like my Mixtaper buck, please.
No.
Okay.
Birthday or forgotten birthday?
Yeah, Whitesnake. I think Whitesnake has a birthday on my birthday. I'm going to say that's me.
That is you.
Yes.
Patty Scialfa.
Is that the wife of Bruce Springsteen that we talked about the other week?
It sure is.
Okay. That's a Mixtaper buck. Although I guess I don't know what band she's in. I just know who she was married to.
She's just a singer who was married to Bruce Springsteen.
Okay. That feels like Connor's birthday.
That is your... That's not Connor's birthday. That's forgotten birthday. Please answer
Sorry.
correctly.
It feels like I don't know what her birthday is.
That is birthday.
Darn.
Glenn Campbell.
The Rhinestone Cowboy? I want him to be my birthday, but I think I've forgotten. So I think that's a forgotten birthday.
That is a forgotten birthday.
Yes.
Bull Moose Jackson.
Bull Moose Jackson? What's he from?
He's just an American band leader, flautist, and saxophonist
Oh.
who would have turned 105 this year.
Would have been 105, huh?
Yeah.
Sounds like he would have been 105 on my birthday.
That is a forgotten birthday.
Darn.
Peter Frampton.
Ooh. Oh, I should know that.
He's a guitarist. You should know him.
Yeah, I know. I've seen him live. Peter Frampton's great.
Oh, really?
Yeah, do you feel like he does?
What's he from?
What is he from? He's from one of those super groups, right? I mean, like, I just know him as a solo artist.
Oh, well, this thing has him as a guitarist for Humble Pie.
That's right. Yep, Humble Pie. I think he is my birthday.
He is another forgotten birthday.
Darn.
Neil Dowdy.
That's another one that's not ringing a bell. What's he from?
He's the keyboardist for REO Speedwagon.
Ooh, I think that's me too.
You think that's you as well? He does indeed have a birthday.
Yes, he does.
Brian Wetch.
Okay, who's that?
He's a multi-instrumentalist for Ninja Sex Party and Starbomb.
Boy, I don't know if I'd know that one either way.
Ninja Sex Party is a band and Starbomb is a supergroup.
Sure, that feels like the kind of thing that would have happened on Connor's birthday.
Sorry, whose?
Sorry, a forgotten birthday.
Yeah, that's a forgotten birthday.
Woo!
Daniel Johns.
Oh, I feel like that's on the tip of my tongue, but I don't know it.
Silverchair.
That wasn't actually on the tip of my tongue then. Like the C.S. Lewis book. I'm going to say this is the forgotten birthday.
It is a forgotten birthday. What's our score? How we doing?
I've got 5. I don't know how many you've asked me about, but I've got 5 of them right. I think I've missed 3.
I think it's 5-3. Yeah, I think
that
it's
sounds
5-3.
right.
Up next, Avery Kidd Howard.
What band?
He's an American jazz trumpeter who would have turned 116 this year.
You're giving me people from a long time ago.
Well, there's only so many current ones that have one of our birthdays.
That's true.
Or
we
yours
might share a birthday,
yeah.
but we don't share a century. We don't share a millennium. Oh, well, we do share a millennium, but anyway, I'm going to say that one's my birthday.
Yeah, unfortunately, he has a forgotten birthday.
Oop. It is nice that you limited it just to Connor's birthday and not every potential other of the 364 days of the year. Really grateful.
Martina McBride.
I would know if she was on my birthday, and I don't know that she is. So I'm going to say this one's forgotten too.
This is a birthday.
Oh, wow.
She's turning 58 on your birthday.
That's cool.
Randy Sparks.
Okay, who's he?
He's an American folk singer and songwriter for the New Christie Minstrels and would have turned 91 this year.
Goodness. Okay. I think that's a forgotten birthday.
That is a birthday.
Oh, I'm slipping.
I think that puts me up 1 now, right?
I think so.
I just got 3 in a row, so you're still at 5, right?
Yep.
So that brings us to the last one on my list, which unfortunately means the best you can do is tie.
This means I lose. Well, tie should go to the runner. I'm just saying.
To the dastards, sorry.
It's my birthday.
Danger Mouse.
Danger Mouse?
Yeah.
Is that like a DJ?
You don't know who Danger Mouse is?
I don't think so.
Huh. American musician and record producer of Gnarls Barkley fame.
The name is familiar. Okay.
The name Danger Mouse should sound familiar. He's popular in that scene. He maybe has come up on the podcast before?
I feel like he has. Yeah.
It's tickling a memory. But anyway, birthday or non-birthday? Or birthday or forgotten birthday?
Birthday or no birthday is a whole different game. I think this is my birthday.
This is indeed a birthday. Congratulations on getting 50%, meaning, unfortunately, no perfect week for you. This point goes to the dastard.
I feel still pretty good about that, though.
Yeah, you did, honestly, better than I thought you might.
I can't believe Martina McBride cost me everything.
Yeah, you were so confident.
I was pretty sure I would have known that or remembered it, but... Wait, do I get one for Geddy Lee?
No, that wasn't in the game.
What? He totally would have been in the game. Oh, come on.
That'll teach you not to open your mouth.
Well, that's why I wasn't going to say it, but you said say it, and you said, okay. Oh, that's not fair. I feel like you should be mine.
I don't make the rules.
Yes, you do. Oh, darn it. Well, I'll take the hit.
You have a lot more famous people on your birthday than whoever's birthday we forgot does.
Yeah, I know.
You've got Neil Dowdy of REO Speedwagon. You got the wife of Bruce Springsteen. You got Geddy Lee. You got Martina McBride. John Sykes. Danger Mouse.
Well, that's just music people.
And those are all living people.
That's true.
And then over on the Forgotten Birthdays, the most famous living one we had was probably Peter Frampton.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Glenn Campbell, who's unfortunately dead. That was the only other notable one on the Forgotten Birthdays. No wonder you're so into music. You share a birthday with a bunch of musicians.
It was destiny. Maybe there's a bunch of other people than in some other field that were born on the Forgotten Birthday. A bunch of famous engineers, I bet.
Maybe. Well, that's all I got for Fact or Spin this week. I hope you enjoyed your 3 facts about Craig Finn.
I did.
And then your birthday or Forgotten Birthday special grand finale.
I really did like that. That was a fun little twist. Love a little unique game.
And until then... Or wait.
Yes, sometimes you do that. Sometimes you say until then when there's no other time referenced. I don't know if I've ever caught you before you left the time to point it out, but it's happened more than once.
Well,
we'll see you next week, Mixtaper.
Hey, until then. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I think he just got so used to me saying we'll see you next week that he just ran with it.
I think that's what happened too. I wonder whose birthday we forgot.
I don't know. Could be anyone's. Well, are you ready to talk about some album art on We All Want the Same Things?
Let's do it.
Good, because I also want to talk about the album art on We All Want the Same Things. And if we all want the same things, that must mean we both want to talk about the album art.
So, Rainy Road. Traffic.
It's a rainy road. Darn right. I believe this one's taken somewhere just outside of Azusa, California, based on that one little street sign you can see. But otherwise, yeah, it's just a rainy road with traffic and brake lights. What'd you think to see this album cover? How's it land?
Put me in the mood for, like, jazz music, oddly enough.
Jazz. That is odd enough.
I don't know. It's just rain and the ambiance made me think jazz music.
Ooh, okay. I kind of like it because it kind of looks like we're approaching this traffic jam, which is a cool metaphor for we all want the same things. I've never met anyone who is in a traffic jam and wants to stay in a traffic jam. Everyone wants to get out of traffic. We all want the same things. You know, these characters that he talks about are kind of maybe headed towards traffic jam-like situations, dead ends, and just snafus in their everyday life. I'm pretty sure in 159 episodes, that's the first time we've said snafu. But they're just headed towards these situations in their everyday life that they're not looking forward to, and they're going to maybe be in for a while. So I think it's a cool album cover, metaphorically. Plus, it's rainy. Driving in the rain's never fun. So you expected jazz music. Jazz music is not what you got, sorry to say.
No, it wasn't.
How did that land? I mean, you come in, you know this guy's been in like a punk rock band.
Well, I'll be honest. I didn't know any of that before I hit play.
Oh, fair enough.
And when I hit play, I thought maybe I was right.
Yeah.
Starts off with that weird trumpet.
Yeah, there's a little bit of cacophony in the beginning.
And then like the piano kind of, I was like, is this going to be like freeform jazz? Like, what are we getting into? But then it was not.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't mind if the whole album was like Jester June. Oh man, but it's not. As you listen to We All Want the Same Things, I feel like you just sit back and listen to these stories and the world building and the characters and just watch how quickly and efficiently he gets us exactly where he wants us to be on every track. It's really cool. And it's important to keep in mind, you know, as you go, the major themes, right? We all want the same things. Life is harder now than it seemed like it was in the past. The grass was greener on the other side before I even knew that it was. Those are all big things. But yeah, I think Jester June throws us in head first. I don't know what genre to call Craig Finn. It's rock, but it's like alt folk rock. A little bit. It's really hard to pigeonhole.
I would say like, yeah, alt rock would be kind of like where I would have guessed if I was trying to define it.
Yeah.
With my limited understanding of genres.
The problem is genres are so fluid and there's no like set basket that everything that's a pop song goes in. But especially Jester June, I think his instrumental choices contribute a lot to the genre confusion. With the horns and the heavy drums, There's like a ringing guitar in there for a little while. It all just sounds really great to me. The story in Jester and June is about a wild and carefree couple, that's come to terms with the fact that they're aging out of the scene. They're the last of a dying breed. And he talks about all the stuff they used to do. We were laughing at jokes, smiling in the smoke. They used to call us Junebug and Jester. We would drink and fall in love, fall around the clubs. We used to know all the tunes. Suddenly, they don't fit in with the crowd anymore. They try to buy drugs from a cool crowd that just doesn't have space for them. And they don't know the music. They don't know the style. And slowly over the course of the song, they progress from Jester and June. In my head, like these Bonnie and Clyde type wild and free young adults or teenage characters, they just age out into Justin and Jane. Boring, normal, older folks waiting at the car wash in the rain. They can't live that wild and crazy life anymore. And they just have to resolve to always remember the good old days when they did. What a kickstart. How did you like it?
I liked it a lot.
You did?
The opening track, Jester and June?
Yeah.
I thought it was cool.
I think it's really cool. It's not like anything. I mean, picture little me, just exploring iTunes, not knowing what to expect. Puts on this album for the first time. Here's Jester and June. I mean, it's literally like a door opened for me. And I really, really love Jester and June. Probably sentimentally more than anything, but also how different.
It is pretty different.
I like the brass and the woodwinds he puts in here. There's some saxophones and horns, and it just adds so much to the atmosphere of the song. There's a dissonance that he uses in all the different chords and the lead lines that he puts over them. As you listen to it, it kind of sounds like these instruments are out of place, just like our protagonists feel. And I really like that parallelism. And it ends, the song ends with a run-in with the law. Our protagonists get rung up by the police and put in handcuffs. But then it ends with this loud instrumental solo. There's a talk box on there somehow. It's so good. This is a song I cranked to 11 in my car. Well, louder than 11 literally, but you get the idea. It ends on a really cool dissonant chord. I like Jester and June a heck of a lot.
But it surprisingly middle of the pack in terms of the Spotify plays.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the most casually listenable song on the album, and that's probably what does it. It's not middle of the pack in my heart.
But maybe your heart is middle of the pack.
Oh, well.
So, way back on episode 67, we had some nice sized up lewds within this moment.
Yeah, that's a major throwback.
We're finally getting around to the prequel to that with these Preludes.
Yeah.
On track 2.
Right. I think it's interesting that Preludes is the second track on this album, given that it's called Preludes. But also, Preludes was the album's lead single. So it kind of was a prelude, even if it doesn't open the album, which is weird and kind of fun. Very different vibes than Jester and June. Better or worse vibes? What do you think? Off the opening. Not as disorienting.
Yeah, definitely not as disorienting. More easily listened to.
Mm-hmm. I like the way it sounds. There's a flute in there that does some really interesting stuff with like a tremolo. I can't even put my finger on exactly what, but the way that it comes in and out and wobbles at your ear is really satisfying to me.
Yeah.
What do you think about his voice, by the way? I think it works great for his solo stuff. I'm curious to see and explore how it works with the Hold Steady in more of a rock band type setting, because I haven't done that yet. But I think it's really interesting here. I think it's a good storytelling voice.
Yeah, he has a nice singing voice.
I think so. It's just not what I would traditionally think of at all. But I like it. Craig Finn has called Preludes a particularly autobiographical song. He said, "This is what I remember 1994 being like, coming back to the Twin Cities after being away for college. It's a time in my life that I felt most adrift, but there was also a feeling of wonder in being out of step and alone. This is the song that is closest to being autobiographical, but I think it fits in with these other character studies. I was trying to figure out my place in a world that didn't seem to have a lot of room for me." So he talks about it pretty directly in the song. He comes back to the city. Suddenly, all the gangsters drove Honda Preludes. It's kind of a symbol for how the city has changed. But suddenly bodies are being found in a park where he used to think it was safe. Things had progressed and got strange, is how he describes it in the song. So he talks about the little things that changed, right? The state's hockey team, the Minnesota North Stars, they moved south to become the Dallas Stars. All his friends left town and moved west. It's the same place, but it's fundamentally very different than when he was familiar with it. And to that end, I think it's also impressive how well he can convey exactly how much has changed by only showing us one side of the story. I mean, we never get to see the Twin Cities before. We only know how he describes what's absent. And through that lens, I think we get a really cool understanding of the change and how sudden it's been.
I don't know, this album has had a weird vibe to it from the get-go.
Yeah, it's different, isn't it?
Like, across the first 3 tracks, especially, like, they just all hit differently. It keeps throwing me off. I don't know how to feel.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting because it doesn't really feel super disjointed, but it doesn't gel seamlessly at all. Like, these are distinct patches on the quilt.
Yeah, a quilt is a really good way of describing it. Like, together they make a whole blanket, but individually, they're very unique.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. I feel like that's his ambition, maybe, to build a world, to sew together a quilt out of all these different individual, totally separate stories, but they're all connected by the same stitching of we all want the same things, right? Our characters remember the times that were good before in both Jester and June and Preludes. That's the uniting theme. Things were better then, things are different now, and I don't like it. Preludes also has a really interesting conclusion, too. So much of the song is just about his new experience in the city, and then the song ends with the speaker getting mugged at gunpoint and knocked out and sent down the river, and he's rescued by some punks camping out, and they try and help him recover. Very interesting way to take the story.
Yeah, well, he gets mugged, and then immediately goes into $90.
I do think that's a nice transition. Yeah, that's a pretty solid follow-up. It starts with the sound of, like, broken glass, $90 does.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, it's not like an engine revving, like a, just whatever that sound that they ramp up into the guitar part and the piano with is really interesting. $90 is a real 4 on the floor kind of song. It's driven. I mean, Jester and June is hectic and chaotic. Preludes is a little floaty. $90 is so grounded that it's like a lot. There's nothing happening in between those downbeats, right? All the action of the song happens on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 of it.
Sure.
And I think that's part of the reason it feels so different. Our speaker this time is a character named Nathan, and he's got a friend who's asking him for a little loan of $90. She wants to get back and finish school, get back on her feet, get a job. She's, quote, sick of all this wilderness, the businessmen on business trips. But until she gets back on her feet, she's spinning her wheels until school starts. So she's in a rut. She's drinking vodka, trying to buy drugs from Caesar, her dealer, the same dealer mentioned in Jester and June, and later on the album, too. I think that's like the one recurring character that he does include on this album, Caesar the drug dealer. But that's why she really needs $90. If I'm short when he shows up, he'll be angry. She's got to pay the drug dealer.
Yeah.
So it's not money to get back on her feet. It's just money to perpetuate this rut that she's in. It's a really interesting story to tell, because he kind of leads us that way on that roundabout route. She doesn't outright say at the beginning, I need $90 for drugs. She says, I need $90. I'm not back on my feet yet. I'm going back to school. This will help me get by. And we, over time, learn what it's going to help with. But Nathan does pay up. She more or less kicks him out. Go back to your little house, your pull-out couch, come back at the same time in a week. So probably we can assume she's just going to ask him for more money. And this cycle is only going to continue. Downward spiral. And it's interesting, too. I mean, the unnamed woman in the song, she has these visions of better days in the future, right? She wants the same things as all these other characters have had. She wants to go back to the past too, and it's just not there for her. I don't know. It's just such a new take on the same angle. But hopefully you've locked in enough through the first 3 tracks, as disorienting as they are. I feel like Birds Trapped in the Airport feels normal for the album.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like by track 4, I've adjusted to what this is for the time being.
I tend to agree.
Yeah. What do you think of the image of birds trapped in the airport?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody can imagine.
That is true. I think it's incredible imagery. I think about this song almost every time I fly and I see a bird out the window.
Really?
I do. I'm like, oh, I wonder if that bird's trapped at the airport. And then I think of this song.
Or maybe it's just waiting on its connection.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's just ironic, right? Truly ironic. Not in the Alanis Morissette way. You're somewhere that's made for flying and you're trapped.
Yeah.
A bird is meant to fly naturally. That's what it's like made to do. And it's stuck watching all these unnatural airplanes have the freedom and the ability to take off and go, even though it can't itself. So that's like the metaphor of the song. Feeling like you're stuck and trapped in a situation that you shouldn't be, watching other people succeed around you in ways that you don't think are possible for yourself. But the literal story of the song is about a gay couple that does drugs together. They're struggling to overcome their addictions, but finding comfort in one another. in spite of how bad their situation is.
I like to imagine it's two birds that are going through this.
Two gay birds.
Yeah.
Maybe. I guess they could be.
And one of them's trapped at the airport.
I guess they could be bird junkies.
Yeah. One of them's high on poppy seeds.
Yeah, those will get you. What about the other one?
He's just high on life.
High on life. Yeah. No, unfortunately, the speakers are very much high on, like, heroin, hard drugs, not poppy seeds in life.
Who gave a bird heroin?
That'd be a pretty bad idea. He says, I found a thread in the closet and followed it into darkness. I'm glad that you're here. I've been estranged from my family. Like, this relationship might be going right, but everything else in life has fallen apart. It's been loveless and it's been lonely. And they acknowledge that the end is coming fast, so they have to make the most of the little time they may have left. The line, will be skeletons and ghosts next year, is particularly striking.
It's true.
I really like the arpeggio on this one. That little do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. That is such a cool sound for this style, and I really like it a lot. It's also interesting. This is another song that could kill a drummer if he wasn't ready to play it. It's very fast on the drums, but the rest of it doesn't feel that way. Just by the numbers, it's probably the most up-tempo song on the album so far, even though it doesn't feel like it in the slightest.
I really liked it. I liked the fast pace. I liked the drums. I enjoyed it.
Good. Me too. I think it's an ambitious place to take this album. 4 tracks in. But an even more ambitious place. I feel like the gamble of gambles on this record happens next. Track 5, God in Chicago.
Yeah.
Really interesting. And kind of the album's emotional centerpiece and literal centerpiece. It's a title track of sorts, and it is largely made up of spoken word, which was a gamble for me, I knew going in. How'd that go for you?
Too long.
You think?
I think the spoken part's too long.
Well, I mean, it is most of the song.
I like the Never Been to Chicago sung part.
Yeah.
It was a nice little hook. I either wanted a little more of that in the middle, or I don't know what I wanted. I gave it a fair shake. At first, I was like, okay, we're doing some speaking, but it's like over music, and it's kind of like syncopated to the beat.
It's a poem.
Yeah.
A rhythmic poem.
Another reason I thought you might get fooled by the Mixtaper's Walt Whitman thing.
I did definitely think about this song in that moment, yes.
But I guess part of it might be my own fault too. I saw it was the most popular according to Spotify.
It is.
And so I went into it expecting some awesome song, and then I basically got a spoken poem.
It's a spoken poem, but it is an awesome spoken poem.
Yeah, it's just not what I wanted. I wanted a song.
Yeah, that's true enough. Fair. But it tells a story, a heck of a story. Probably the largest scope of story on the whole album. I mean, a lot of these have been small little stories of people in an instant. God in Chicago takes place over probably a week or two. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint the exact time frame. But it also spans a lot of miles. There's a road trip in the middle.
I don't care about any of that. No, that's real. That's just that's just telling a story. It's easy. It takes a couple of words to say. We went on a road trip.
Right, but he doesn't say it like that because there's so much more to it.
I'm just saying. You're like, oh, he travels a lot of miles. It's like you travel the same number of miles in 30 seconds as you can 30 hours when it comes to writing a song.
Yeah, but the whole scope of the song is different.
Oh, it's just the way you were saying it made it sound like you were impressed by how there's a road trip, and you're just like describing all these things that really weren't that impressive as if they were impressive.
It's not impressive. It's different. This song takes a larger view. It's a bigger story. There's a lot of elements to it that aren't present on other tracks, where characters largely stay in one place, maybe even in one conversation, like $90, you know? Movement is a big... You took English classes. You know that movement and travel is like a major literary device, and he uses it as such. First of all, God in Chicago doesn't name his characters, like so many of these other songs. I mean, it names Charlie, the dead brother of the main character, but otherwise, the living characters, we're kind of able to transpose our own experiences onto them a little more easily because they don't have names. It's a little more relatable to put yourself in their shoes. But this woman's brother dies suddenly, unexpectedly, and she recruits his friend to help her settle his affairs. In particular, they find his stash of drugs, presumably what led to his early death, and they decide to go to Chicago to sell it and split the money. So the song details their whole journey all the way down to Chicago. They end up getting a room to spend the night. And, you know, with all the high emotions of grief going on, they kind of end up together. And it seems like the first time that's happened, seems unexpected, unplanned. We all want the same things, is what he says in the middle of the song. What a way to introduce the title. We're all human. Like, we all struggle with the same emotions. We have the same needs, even if that looks a little different in everybody's specific situation. And then we kind of get dropped on this cliffhanger where they leave Chicago and come back to the hard realities of their lives where this person has just died. The emotions overwhelm her again and she starts crying. We never learn what happens next. We get a momentary snapshot of this extraordinary experience. We see this little moment of escape from a tragic circumstance, and we step away from the whole story. We never get anything else. And I really think every ounce of this song is pretty perfect. Lyrically incredible, if you can call it lyrics. If you just want to call it a poem, fine, but it's an incredible poem. I like the way he uses the music to underscore the spoken word, but then the part where he sings is the part about escaping to Chicago. Kind of feels hopeful. Kind of feels like there's a promise to it in the midst of the bleak reality that doesn't have any singing, doesn't have any melody or happiness to it. But it's hope and promise to get out of the city. And then they get there and he's back to speaking. He realizes that everything's just the same, even though we're in a different place. I don't know. I think there's something there. I like God in Chicago. I understand if it doesn't land right with you. It's not traditional in any sense as a song. But I think that's what makes it so cool.
I'm a traditional guy.
Well, I mean, I guess, but not really. You swing wide. I think.
I do.
Look at your podcast picks. You've got traditional, like Barry Manilow, Michael Bublé, jazz standards. You know, I'm bringing Rhapsody in Blue. You're traditional in some ways, but then other times you're like, we're talking about Ray Stevens and the Great Squirrel Revival and the man that streaks around the park. And then we're talking about Dr. Demento's Christmas album. Here are some dogs barking to the tune of We Wish You a Merry Christmas. So I don't know if you could fully claim traditional as part of your like thing.
Let's take a look at which one was a more popular episode.
That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean traditional.
No, I'm just saying, like, sometimes, you know, it's good to not be traditional.
Sure. Yeah, it's great. And that's why God in Chicago stands out. Because sometimes it's good to be non-traditional. And we really haven't covered a song very like it on the podcast yet, I don't think. But not to worry. There are no more moments like that on the rest of the album. We move into Rescue Blues, the second half of the record. And it feels a lot more standard, I think. Honestly, if the first 4 tracks were a little chaotic, I think the last 5 tracks, feel a little more normal in a lot of ways. Rescue Blues is another song with a down-on-his-luck protagonist. It's a man who owes a lot of money to a really, really mean debt collector, and they're trying to hunt him down. So to avoid them, he takes up refuge with a wealthy widow who's collected a lot of money from her late husband's life insurance. And as time passes, this casual relationship, casual friendship starts to turn into a bit of a romantic spark. It's a very interesting story.
I liked Rescue Blues. Rescue Blues is what I wanted God in Chicago to be.
Okay, well then, I mean, you still got it here, right?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. Like, to give you an idea of what I was expecting on God in Chicago. It was something more like the scale of Rescue Blues.
It does have a lot bigger of a sound. That's true. So if you expected God in Chicago to be the big, great song, and Rescue Blues lived up to that, does that make this the bigger, greater song?
Compared to God in Chicago, yeah.
Well, I don't know, compared to everything.
It's up there.
Okay, that's interesting. I feel like I'd put Rescue Blues somewhere in my middle-ish of the pack. I really like the sliding guitar part on it, though. Just the guitar repeats itself, and it slides from a lower chord to a higher chord frequently, and I really like that transition. I like the story. I like the characters. It's kind of simple. This is another song that's confined to one room, pretty much. He just lives with this woman. I just love the way that he conveys these ideas. He talks about falling for this woman that he shouldn't be having feelings for, and he says, I haven't mentioned it to all my friends. They think I'm only doing this to have somewhere to hang my head, and I admit that played into it, but now there's so much more to this. And then he goes into the chorus when we're sailing off above the mountaintops, and what a track. I think all these lyrics really do sound conversational, top to bottom. If he's trying to put into song things that you'd say in real life, he's certainly succeeding. One of my favorite songs on the album is up next, Tangletown, actually. I like this one a lot.
This is the town from Tangled, right?
No, that town's called Corona, which they named before coronavirus, but that turned out to be a really unfortunate choice.
They were trying to name themselves after the beer.
Also a really unfortunate choice.
Anyway, sorry to tangle us up in that stupid tangent.
No, not Tangled Town, Tangletown. I mostly like this song for the way it sounds. Really unique instruments and stuff on this one.
It's a town full of crocheters.
Yeah, who get all their yarn tangled.
Yeah.
Okay. I think he does a great job here. I really like the little bum, 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 bum in between every phrase that he kind of says. That little 4-hit works really well.
They get all their food via net fishing.
Oh, like a fishing village because things get tangled in nets?
Yep.
You're going to run out of tangling things eventually.
Impossible. I think I'm out.
Oh, great. Honestly, this is kind of like that, though. It's about two people that get tangled up in a relationship together, of course.
Of course.
I really like it. We get two characters kind of with different perspectives on the same situation. We have a waitress who really loves the finer things, trying to work her way up in the world, and a rich bachelor who had all the finer things, but he lost his wife and he's struggling through a job that he hates to try and make ends meet. And they come together. You know, the waitress works hard for her money. And even though she does work hard, her car is still in the shop. She can't pay up, but she still wants to rock. Meanwhile, the rich guy, he lost his shirt in a bad divorce, and he leased a car that makes it look okay to give the appearance that it's not so bad, that he's not struggling, that his friends don't worry about him. So these two people are kind of on opposite trajectories through life, right? One's trying to head up, one's on their way down despite their best intentions, and they meet up occasionally. They sit and drink and spend the night together. They try to use the other person to get that fix of what they're missing in life. Very literally getting tangled up together. It's awesome. And I really do love, I know you're not the biggest fan of repetitivity, and I know you're not the biggest fan of longer songs, but he repeats the chorus a lot of times at the end of Tangletown.
Yeah.
And I love that. First of all, so good musically, but also thematically very relevant because it kind of illustrates the grind, how they just wake up and rinse and repeat. They just do the same thing over and over and over and over, never really getting anywhere with it, but too comfortable and too afraid to break it off and head in different directions that are actually going to be beneficial to each other.
The length of this one didn't bother me.
No, good. It shouldn't, because it rocks. This is probably the best use, I think, of brass instruments on Tangletown. So I thought it might have that going for you.
I agree.
Yeah, I listened to his acoustic demo of Tangletown not too long ago, and they're not there, and it makes my heart hurt. I miss them when they're gone.
You know what song was too long?
Could it be the longest song on the album that we're about to talk about next?
Yeah.
It Hits When It Hits.
Extended version.
Yeah. It Hits When It Hits is 5.5 minutes long. It's a doozy. Because not only is it long, it's also slow. And not only is it slow, it's also not very melodically driven. The verses are kind of very free-flowing, very free-form. They're not rigidly, rhythmically tied. And the only thing that really gets a melody or a hook that I kind of remember frequently from It Hits When It Hits is the actual hook. I could tell that today's going to be a celebration, or one thing I've heard about love is it hits when it hits. The actual lines that he sings like that are really the only parts that stick well. But again, that doesn't bode well for it as a song, but as a storytelling vessel, I think that works great for it. It matches the story he's trying to tell a lot better than an upbeat, happy, musical song. The song's about an army veteran wishing for a normal life. He meets a woman for a one-night stand, but he unexpectedly thinks he might have fallen in love and believes that this is his chance to be happy, and he thinks he's found his person. So he shows up to the restaurant where she works, right? And pours out his heart to her. And we only get this one side of the conversation. We only hear his words and see things from his perspective. And even though that's all we get, I feel like we could tell that this guy's shooting a hopeless shot just based on what he says about the situation himself. Last night was something I didn't see coming, never made a connection like we did. And the next day, he says he brings her a dozen roses, and I can see you're suspicious. You say you barely know me. But he keeps going, keeps pouring out his heart. He said things were messed up, but now everything's perfect because I met you. It seems a bit quick, but I've been praying for this, and the one thing I've heard about love is it hits when it hits. This isn't a happy love song. This is a kind of a sad song, a song where you pity the speaker and the character that he's talking to in a lot of ways. Also, side note, really love Craig Finn and his use of the present tense. I think he uses it so often and so effectively to really put us in the action of the story. We're on the hook, and it's like we get to find out what happens next at the same time these characters do. The speaker in the song's not telling us about last night when he tried to go back and confront the woman that he thinks he's fallen in love with. He's doing it as we're listening to it. Now you're in your uniform. There's mellow music happening right now. I can tell that today's going to be a celebration. Your manager is angry. It feels a lot more immediate and unpredictable because he uses the present tense. And this isn't the first or only place he's done it. This was just a place I thought I should point that out because I really like it.
Is it over yet?
No, it's not.
That's what I kept saying.
Oh, well, lucky for you. I think that's all I have to say about It Hits When It Hits.
It didn't hit soon enough for me.
Maybe not. But then we move from the slowest, longest song on the album into one of the fastest, again, up there with the drums of birds trapped in the airport.
It is the fastest. I mean, the shortest.
Definitely the shortest. Tracking shots.
It's another one that the drums are going fast.
Yeah, and the horns. Maybe the second best use of the horns next to Tangletown on tracking shots. So in filmmaking, do you know the term tracking shot?
Yeah.
Good. I figured you would, as someone who doesn't make films.
Well, as somebody who's interested in pop culture, specifically like movies and TV,
Yeah.
I know a decent amount about that, actually.
Right. So this is an interesting song to include on this album, I think, because a tracking shot is a shot in a movie where your camera moves along with the subject.
Moves with, rather than being a still camera. It's like the character walking down a hallway and the camera's also coming down the hallway so that it's with the person the whole time.
Bingo. Exactly. When they would otherwise be moving out of frame, a tracking shot is how you keep them in focus. And you kind of follow them through all the action. And really...
I actually almost bought a like home version of a tracking camera because it got targeted added to me because I was researching them.
You were so susceptible to targeted advertising.
I am. It was really cool, though. Just a little outside of what I was willing to be convinced into via a targeted ad.
Yeah. Anyway, tracking shots, following the characters through the action. I think that's what this whole album has been. It's a musical tracking shot, following the journey of all these different characters. Every song is its own individual little tracking shot. And that's pretty much the angle that he takes in the first verse. Widen out the angle for our tracking shot while we fake our way through predictable plots. Watch our lives play out in these parking lots with dead-end cards and debit jobs. I really like that.
It's got some decent lyrics, yeah.
Yeah, the flip he does between dead end and debit is really interesting. You know, you have a debit card and a dead end job. Flip them around. It's neat. It ends up being a song about almost contradictory ideas that come together at a critical point with some explosive collision. Faith in science and laughter and screams from bumper cars and water slides. Like these two emotions that shouldn't go together and suddenly do. The lighters and the burners, the kettle and the steam. Oh, I should have. Wow. The Mixtaper lied about Craig Finn collecting teapots, and this kettle and the steam line, if he had thought of that and brought it up, might have convinced me. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Burn it up and boil it off. The righteous path is hard to walk. Tracking shots is interesting. And it's unique on this album because it's the only song that doesn't really involve specific characters or tell a very linear story, which sets it apart from the record in some key ways. And so, I think he's also chosen to make it very sonically different with the loud, fast drums and the sliding brass that are kind of disorienting, whereas most of the rest of the songs have been way more grounded and straightforward and a little slower. So I think it's cool. I think it's cool that we widen out the angle and kind of get a bird's eye view of the context of all the rest of these songs, the chaotic world that they're happening in. And the album ends with a very woodwindy song in Be Honest. What do you think of it as a closing track?
I'll be honest.
Please do.
I liked it.
Okay, that's good.
It's got the horns are back.
They are. And flutes and woodwinds are back too that really sell the sound, I think. A lot softer than the harshness of tracking shots. The brass, I think, comes back in a way that's very natural, and it builds to this epic kind of conclusion. The song has a really good dynamic ebb to it because of the brass and the way he uses it. The whole song, Be Honest, is a metaphorical illustration of somebody falling out of love and maybe going through a divorce. He compares it to a country being invaded in the first verse. Later, it gets compared to a break-in and a home invasion that leaves the speaker very emotionally bankrupt. It's the ruins of an empire and the people we once were. If revolution's coming, we need to be well. So maybe it's best if we both take care of ourselves, because trying to take care of each other, it has been detrimental to both of us. And again, point it right back to that central theme. We all want the same things. Each of us wants to be happy. Each of us wants the other person to be happy. And that's not a thing we can provide for each other. So even though we don't want necessarily to split things up and we want to be the people we once were, happy and in love, it's not possible. And so now the best thing to do is to cut the ties and move forward. And that's a really strong way to end the album, I think. So yeah, that's We All Want the Same Things. I feel like I did most of the talking, but...
You did do a lot of the talking, but you usually do.
I know. Well, these songs have so many story elements that I wanted to talk about and get through. And I never know. Sometimes you try and not talk deliberately if you're trying to bury the lead or hide your thoughts. Or you also do it if you don't have many thoughts. So I'm curious to see which way this pans out in final spin. With the caveat, remember, Year of Discovery, you can give this whatever score you want. I know this is a very unconventional album to send your way. So I have no expectations or like thresholds that I would be upset if this was, well, nothing's gonna be earth-shattering. Anyway, final spin. Let's hit it. I've already said all that I need to say, I think. I'm giving the music on this album a 98. I think in most places it's really great. And it's different than anything I would have expected. I don't know. I've not yet found much like this album. Or much like Craig Finn as a solo artist. And so maybe I do need to branch into Hold Steady and do a little more digging around that world. But 98 for music, 96 for lyrics. I think we got some really great storytelling here. I like the patchwork quilt style of it. Everything is part of the same and everything is its own. And that's really cool. 96, instruments and production. 99, there's a lot of variety here. There's a lot of interesting sounds that you can't understand but contribute to the overall atmosphere of the song really well. I like it a lot. This whole album gels in a unique way. Not seamless, very seamed, but very together, and I like that. Overall vibe, 99. I don't think it quite gets a 100. I think it hits when it hits, and maybe even be honest a little bit. Kind of detract ever so slightly from the vibe score. Sad but true, and that's just what it is. So the overall score is pretty high. I admit it. I know. It's a 98.7. Puts We All Want the Same Things at number 5 on the ranking list, which is below Dark Side of the Moon and above Airplane in the Airplane Over the Sea that we did the other week. Hard decisions. Very, very hard decisions. But that's why I made the ranking list.
That's what it's for.
So I could numerically prove these hard decisions to myself. Anyway, that's me. I'm intrigued. I mean, everything we talked about, you kind of said you liked, mostly. I mean, some got a little long, and God in Chicago sounds like a swing and a miss. But everything else, I feel like was generally positive vibes, right? Or am I off?
I thought it was interesting. I'm glad I listened to it. It's another one I'm not sure I'll be back to.
Yep. Well, welcome to the Year of Discovery, where I give you a bunch of albums that are interesting and you'll be glad you listened to and glad you know about, but may not return to in full very often.
Yeah, but that's happened, and I still ranked some stuff relatively high.
That's true.
But this one, not so much.
Oh, no.
I'm giving this one 4 Walt Whitman impersonators out of 10.
4 Walt Whitman impersonators. Wow. I bet there aren't even 4 Walt Whitman impersonators in the world.
I don't even know if there's that many in existence.
Probably not. 4, huh?
4. Yeah.
That's lower than I thought. By a bit.
Yeah. I don't know if I just wasn't ready for it, or if those first 3 tracks that just really got me, off kilter, or what. I don't know. I struggle to find footing with this one.
Understandable. There's not a lot of places to land.
It is gonna go right above John Mayer.
Okay.
And that's mainly because I still find myself singing the playlist picks for 30 Seconds to Mars every once in a while.
Walk on Water and whatever the other one was.
Yeah.
Oh, that is sad though. I mean, I think you know in your heart that this album is not really below America, but that's... I
think I liked America better than you did though.
You did. That's true.
I don't see any of these sticking with me.
Yeah.
As for my top 3 in album order, starting off with our honorable mention right off the bat with Jester and June.
Ooh, I'm glad it's in the running. That's probably my favorite song from this album.
Then we're jumping down to Birds Trapped in the Airport.
Whoa, you skipped over another of my favorite songs from this album.
Then we're going down to Tangletown.
Okay, you did skip some, but also Tangletown is another one of my favorite songs on this album.
Where they make all the spaghetti.
Okay.
And finally, I gotta be honest.
Oh, wow. Be Honest makes your list.
Yeah.
That one is one that wouldn't make mine.
I liked it.
Okay. I'm glad you're honest.
The horns got me again. I mainly picked a lot of the ones with horns.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's true. Going back through, I can see the similarities.
And yeah, I'm probably going to take Birds Trapped in the Airport for my playlist pick.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Up above Tangletown, and you didn't even give Preludes a nod.
I really like the middle of Birds Trapped in the Airport. It does some fun stuff.
It does.
So what are you picking? You said Jester June was your favorite.
Yeah, it is. I think it's going to have to be my playlist pick here, too. I think it's a good embodiment of the themes of the album, right? About growing up and things changing in the new stages of life. And I think it's intriguing from the very first horn blat. I think it catches you off guard. And I think you're meant to be caught off guard because life happens fast. That's what these characters are learning. They get caught off guard by their own age, I guess, their own unfitness to be in the scene. So yeah, I'm giving it a playlist pick nod. Especially it's got, again, a lot of personal significance and legacy with me. And I feel like I would regret leaving it off the playlist. So I'll put it there. 4. You haven't given a 4 since Drake. And that was a really different album than this one.
I liked it better than Drake.
That is true.
If that's any consolation.
Well, yeah, for sure. It absolutely is.
Well, can't believe we're already here, but another episode.
I know, the end of another birthday.
Is it everything you wanted it to be?
Yeah, I'm honestly, one side benefit to the podcast is that I get these awesome little companion pieces for all my favorite albums. I get to learn so much about all my favorite artists and share them with you, and I get to do Factor Spin and learn random new things, and it's so much fun. And then at the end of it, we have the perfect companion piece for the album, and I'm really glad to have one for one of my favorite records now. It's a nice birthday present in and of itself, just by existing.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
How's it feel to know that you were 4 years older than when the first episode of this podcast came out?
That is a little strange. You're right. Oh, I feel like I'm Jester and June now. I feel like I've aged. I've changed. But some things never change. And those things include our socials.
Woo!
Even Twitter. Even Twitter changed from Twitter to X, but our social handle is still the same.
But we're still us.
That's right. At SpinItPod on X, at SpinItPod Official on Instagram, and everywhere else. And on our website, www.spinitpod.com. This has been a fun week. Make sure you tell a friend who has a birthday about the podcast and let them know that you love it and that they'll love it. Tell them they'll definitely find an album they like in our ever-growing back catalog.
And if they don't find one that they like, they can recommend one to us.
That's true. And maybe it will get its own perfect companion piece of an episode.
Where can they recommend it to us?
You can email podcast@spinitpod.com and we'll get a recommendation that way. That's the best way to do it.
Wow.
That's new, by the way. So if you're hearing that for the first time and being like, I haven't heard that before, yeah, it's pretty new. We've only talked about it for like an episode or two. Tune in next week to hear Connor say more silly things like this.
Shine like an M&M polished on a shirt.
It's no wonder we always forget your birthday.
I know, especially when I'm saying crap like that.
I know. What am I going to do? We will see you next week. And until then, as the Mixtaper would say,
keep spinning! Do you think there's a bird rehab that we could send the birds that were trapped in the airport to?
All the birds that are on drugs that were trapped at the airport?
The druggy birds, yeah.
There might be a bird rehab. I'm sure there's a bird rehabilitation. A lot of them.
Yeah, but you think they can handle poppy seed addiction and life addiction?
Well, first of all, there's a really easy way to get over life addiction, but we won't go there.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they probably can. Quick cold turkey. Get it? Because it's a cold turkey.
Oh, what kind of bird is trapped in the airport? What kind of bird? Maybe it's turkeys.
All the ones that couldn't fly would be turkeys, penguins, ostrich. Ostrich could maybe run out of the airport.
To be fair, even the ones that can fly get stuck in there. Can't find their way out.
That's true.
And it's more likely that the ones that can't find their way out easier, right? Because they're stuck on the ground where the doors actually are. They might wander through them.
That's true.
Area versus volume, right? The birds have the full volume of the airport to get lost in, the ones that can fly, but the grounded birds just have the area.
Well, they could just fly over like the fence.
Well, I'm thinking it's like they're stuck on the inside part.
Oh, on the inside part of the airport?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would suck.
That's what I have pictured this whole time. Were you picturing they were out on like the
the tarmac?
Like,
it's weird that they're trapped, stupid birds. Yeah.
Just fly over the fence.
Yeah, but they didn't. They were trapped. They were on too many drugs. They were on too many drugs.
Oh boy.